Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And for the last, quite some time now, we've been reading his magnum opus, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the summum bonum of all the Vedas. It's got the essence of all the Puranas, all the Itihasas, contained within it in the most wonderful way. And going through it, verse by verse, under direction, especially the purports of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's sincere advanced devotees, we're being enlightened. And this is not an easy thing. This is a very deep scripture, deep shastra. It's even deep for great elevated sages and souls. And so attractive that it even attracted Shukadeva Goswami, even though he was already a liberated soul in his mother's womb and refused to come out because he didn't want to become entangled by Maya. So he said, I'll just stay here, and just meditate on the Brahman. Then, Shukadeva tried, Vyasadeva, his father, tried to talk him out of coming out, and he still wouldn't come out. So he went to see Krishna. Vyasadeva went to Krishna, talked Krishna into coming, and talked to Shukadeva right within the womb. And he convinced him. But as soon as he came out, he ran away. he was 12 years in the womb, and he's big body. He just ran away, and Vyasadeva was chasing him, and he didn't want to hear it. What about your Brahman thread? Forget it. He was no initiation, nothing. He was, So then Vyasadeva said, look, what am I going to do now? Because my son, Shukadeva, is meant to speak the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. He was Trikalakya. He was an incarnation of God. He knew what was going to happen. So he very intelligently told some of his disciples to go into the forest where he was wandering. And, when he saw him pass by, chant some slokas of the Bhagavatam. So the main stories that he did this with, this is in the Brihan Aranyaka Purana. He chanted some of the pastimes of Putana and the Krishna stealing the clothes of the gopis. Interesting combination. So, and by hearing this, Shukadeva Goswami, even though he was a completely liberated soul, he became attracted. Then he came back, and then he studied the whole 18,000 verses, and then he had the goods to repeat to Parikshit Maharaj later on. So this is the Bhagavatam. It's not ordinary book. It's not even an ordinary shastra. So Sanatana Goswami wrote a very beautiful glorification of the Bhagavatam, which we read every day. I say it every day, but anyway, there's people out there coming on board. So here it is. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, the glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kalidwan Ditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhu tadayin atini chochata kada anamun shagada chinmam prindarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So a public announcement. We read 37 pages today, this morning, even though we got a late start. And we finished the second chapter of the Anjalila, Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna. Another milestone, thank you. Thank you. Another milestone. And I have to give some kudos to Risiko Shiramani. He would love nothing better to be here because he loves hearing. But he's absorbed. And he's learning how to edit sound really quickly and efficiently and professionally. Just to let you know. So he's already up to the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela doing the cut. So by the time I come back. Okay, now we've reached the 2nd chapter of the 11th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Maharaja Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras. It's the very special part of the very special Bhagavatam. Every part is special, but out of all the special parts, this is a special part. Okay. So we're going to meet the 9 Yogendras, whose names are Kavi, Havis, Antariksha, Prabhupada, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamasa, and Karabhajan. And we're going to learn from each of them different things. This is just to give you I don't have a program to pass out, but anyway, it's there in the book. From Kavi, we're gonna find out what the highest truth is, and that's going to take us from text 30 to 43 of this chapter. We're on 15. Then Havis, what are the religion's principles, dharma, natural proclivities, swabhava, behavior, achar, speech, bhakya, and outward symptoms, lakshana, of a Bhagavata, a Vaishnava devotee. Then we're going to hear, that's 44 to 45 of this chapter. Then we're going to hear, what is the external energy of Lord Vishnu, Supreme Lord, from chapter 3, verse 1 through 16. From Antariksha. Then, from Prabhupada, we're going to learn how one can become disassociated from Maya. That's a good one. Listen up. That's 17 through 33 of the 3rd chapter. Then we're going to hear from Pipalayana. What is the true identity of Brahman? From 34 to 40 of the 3rd chapter. Then we're going to hear from Avirhotra. What are the 3 types of karma? A, based on enjoyment of the fruits of work. B, offered to the Supreme Lord. And C, Naishkarmya. That's 41 through 55 of the 3rd chapter. Then we're going to hear from Drumila. And he's going to explain what the various pastimes of the various incarnations of God are. That's chapter 4, verses 1 through 23. Then we're going to hear from Chamasa. What is the aim or destination of one who is against the Supreme Lord and devoid of bhakti? We'll learn what not to do there. That's 5 chapter 5, verse 2 through 18. And then Karabhajan. What are the respective colors, forms, and names of the 4 yuga avatars? And what is the process? 20 through 42, chapter 5. So here we go. Canto 11, chapter 2, verse 15. Swayambhuva Manu had a son named Maharaja Priyavrata. And among Priyavrata's sons was Agnidra. From Agnidra was born Nabi, whose son was known as Rishabhadev. Purport. The genealogical background of the sons of Rishabhadev is given in this verse. Text 16. Sri Rishabhadev is accepted as an expansion of the Supreme Lord, Vasudev. He incarnated in this world to propagate those religious principles that lead living entities to ultimate liberation. He had 100 sons, all perfect in Vedic knowledge. Text 17. Oh, we can have some schmaltz here. We had our schmaltz already, but you can give him a little schmaltz. Here you go. Schmooze. Schmooze, I guess is the right word. Schmooze. Of the 100 sons of Lord Rishabhadev, the eldest, Bharat, was completely devoted to Lord Narayana. It is because of Bharat's fame that this planet is now celebrated as the great Bharatvarsha. And to this day in India, if you look on the money, it says Bharatvarsha. Yes. Text 18. King Bharata rejected this material world, considering all types of material pleasure temporary and useless. Leaving his beautiful young wife and family, he worshipped Lord Hari by severe austerities and attained the abode of the Lord after 3 lifetimes. Purport. The complete narration of the 3 lives of Bharat as a king, as a deer, as an exalted Paramahamsa devotee of the Lord is given in the 5th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. 19. 9 of the remaining sons of Rishabhadev became the rulers of the 9 islands of Bharatvarsha, and they exercised complete sovereignty over this planet. Did I skip anything? No. Okay. 81 sons became twice-born brahmanas and helped initiate the Vedic path of fruitive sacrifices, karma kanda. Purport. The 9 dvipas or islands ruled by 9 sons of Rishabhadev of the 9 varshas of Jambudvip, namely Bharat, Kinara, Hari, Kuru, Hiranmaya, Ramyaka, Ilavrita, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. 21. The 9 remaining sons of Rishab were greatly fortunate sages who worked vigorously to spread knowledge of the absolute truth. They wandered about naked and were very well versed in spiritual science. Their names were Kavi, Havis, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamasa, and Karabhajan. Sound familiar? Okay. Purport. Nimi, the king of Videha, was asked the following 9 questions of the 9 Yogendras, the saintly sons of Rishabhadev. 1. What is the highest good? Chapter 2, verse 30. 2. What are the religious principles, dharma, natural proclivities, swabhava, behavior, achara, speech, vakya, and outward symptoms, lakshana, of a Bhagavata, a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. 244. 3. What is the external energy of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord? 3.1. 4. How can one become disassociated from this Maya? 5. What is the true identity of Brahman? 334. 6. What are the 3 types of karma? Namely, karma based on the enjoyment of the fruits of work, karma offered to the Supreme Lord, and Naishkarmya. 341. 7. What are the various pastimes of the various incarnations of God? 4.1. 8. What is the aim or destination of one who is against the Supreme Lord and devoid of bhakti? In other words, a non-devotee. 5.1. And 9. What are the respective colors, forms, and names of the 4 Yuga avatars, the 4 incarnations of the Supreme Lord who appear in the 4 ages, and what is the process of worshipping each of them? 5.19. The transcendental answers to these inquiries were given by the great devotees Kavi, Havis, Antariksha, Prabhupada, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamasa, and Karabhajan. These 9 Paramahamsas answered the 9 questions, each in turn, in the following verses. And I gave them already. I had them written down. I forgot that was right in the purport. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Text 22. These sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and as non-different from the self. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, it is clearly demonstrated in this and the following verse that the 9 saintly sons of Rishabhadev, known as the Yogendras, were situated in the highest stage of spiritual perfection, called Paramahamsa Charitam, or having fully developed the character of Paramahamsas. In other words, they were pure devotees of the Lord. According to Sridhar Swami and Jiva Goswami, the words Atmano Vyatikarena indicate that the 9 sages saw the universe as being non-different from themselves, as well as non-different from the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has additionally commented, Atmanak Paramatmanak Sakashad Avyatikaran Avyatirikena Vishwasya Chat Chakti Mayadvad Iti Bhavaha. Atmana indicates the Supersoul. This universe is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, since the entire universe is composed of His energy. Although it is stated here that the cosmic manifestation is non-different from both the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not think that either the living entity or the Supreme Lord is material. A Vedic aphorism states, Asango Yayam Purusha. The living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead have nothing to do with the material world. Furthermore, Bhagavad Gita says that the entire universe, consisting of 8 gross and subtle elements, constitutes the Bina Prakriti, or Apara Prakriti, the separated, inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna clearly states in the Bhagavad Gita that He has eternally established His own abode in the kingdom of God, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and that the living entity, being part and parcel of God, is also eternal. Mamaivangsho Jivaloke Jivabhutak Sanatanaha. Furthermore, once having gone to the eternal abode of the Lord, the living entity never returns to this temporary manifestation. Yam prapya nanivartante tadthama paramam mama. One may therefore ask why the living entity and the Supreme Lord are stated to be non-different from the material universe. The question is very nicely answered by Srila Narada Muni in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, 1.5.20. Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagatstana nirodha sambhavaha. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is Himself this cosmos, and still He is aloof from it. From Him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated, in Him it rests, and unto Him it enters after annihilation. Commenting on Narada's statement, Srila Prabhupada has very nicely explained this delicate philosophical point. For a pure devotee, the conception of Mukunda, Lord Sri Krishna, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda, because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. Got that? The Vedic version that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from Him. Similarly, the part and parcel, hands and legs, are called the body, but the body as the whole unit is neither the hands nor the legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty. And thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. According to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus His supreme energies are always perfect and identical with Him. Both the spiritual and the material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the internal and external energies of the Lord. External energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is living force, and therefore she is completely identical with the Lord. But the external energy, being inert, is partially identical. But both the energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under His control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under the control of the engineer. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he is never equal or superior to the personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada has clearly explained here that both the cosmic manifestation and the living entities are emanations from the Supreme Lord, as confirmed both in Vedanta Sutra and in the opening statement of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Janmad yasya yataha. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. Similarly, the Ishopanishad states, Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. The Supreme Lord, the absolute truth, is Purna, or complete in Himself. And since this cosmic world is a manifestation of His potency, it also appears to be Purna. In other words, because this material world is an emanation from the Supreme Lord, it is non-different from Him, exactly as the sun's rays are non-different from the sun globe, which is the source of their emanation. Similarly, the living beings who are expansions of the superior or conscious energy of the Supreme Lord are also non-different from Krishna, although this non-difference is qualitative and not quantitative. The gold found in golden ornaments, such as rings and bracelets, is qualitatively identical with the gold in a mine, but the gold in the mine is qualitatively far superior to the tiny quantity of gold in a bracelet or ring. Similarly, although we are qualitatively one with God, being spiritual emanations of His unlimited potency, we are quantitatively infinitesimal and eternally subordinate to His supreme power. Therefore the Lord is called Vibhu, or infinitely potent, and we are Anu, the infinitesimal, or infinitesimal and dependent. This is further confirmed in the Vedic literature by the statement, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vedidati Kaman. Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. There are innumerable eternal living entities who are eternally and totally dependent upon the supreme single living entity, the Supreme Lord. That dependence is not an illusion created by material existence, as stated by the impersonalist philosophers, but is an eternal relationship in which the Lord is eternally superior and we are eternally inferior. The Lord is eternally independent and we are eternally dependent. The Lord is eternally absolute in Himself and we are eternally relative to His Supreme Personality. Although the Lord is infinitely greater than any other living being, or than all of them combined, every living being is qualitatively non-different from the Lord, because all living beings are part and parcels emanating from Him. Mamaivangsho jivaloke jiva bhutak sanatanaha. Therefore, in one sense, the living entity is also not different from the material cosmic manifestation, which is an inferior sister energy of the Lord. Both the living entity and the material nature are prakriti, or feminine, dependent expansions of the Supreme Purusha. The difference is that the living entity is the superior energy, the Lord, because the living entity is conscious and eternal, like the Lord, whereas material energy is the inferior energy of the Lord, lacking consciousness and eternal form. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has emphasized in this regard that the absolute substance is one and is called Paramatma, or the Super Soul. When one has achieved but a partial vision of the Paramatma, one's understanding of life is called Atma Darshan, or self-realization. And when even this partial understanding is lacking, one's existential condition is called Anatma Darshana, or ignorance of the self. In the state of partial realization of the Super Soul, without recognition of the Paramatma's distinction from the individual soul, the living entity tends to become puffed up by his spiritual achievement, be carried away by mental concoction, and consider himself equal in all respects with God. On the other hand, the living entity situated in Anatma Darshana, or material ignorance, feels that he is completely different from the Supreme Lord, and since everyone in this material world is interested in himself, the living entity forgets about God, thinking that God is completely different from him, and that there is therefore no substantial relationship between him and God. In this way, the impersonal transcendentalists emphasize only the oneness between God and the living entity, whereas the ordinary materialists overemphasize the difference between God and the living entity. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has clearly revealed that the ultimate truth is simultaneous, oneness and difference. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Actually, we are eternally different from God, because the living entity and God are eternally separate living entities. There exists the possibility of an eternal relationship. And because every living entity is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, that relationship constitutes the essence of the ultimate reality for every living being. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 20, 106, Jivera Surupahaya Krishnera Nityadas. The ultimate essential identity of every living entity is his relationship with the Supreme Lord as a servitor of the Lord. If one can understand that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can correctly understand that both the living entity and the material universe are identical with Krishna, being emanations from him, and that they are therefore non-different from each other. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has stated, the material world is a manifestation of simultaneous difference and non-difference, and it is a form of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the temporary, perishable, and ever-changing material world is different from Vaikuntha, the eternal world. It should be noted that in this verse, the word sarasat atmakam, or made up of gross and subtle objects, does not refer to material and spiritual objects. This universe is stated to be composed of sat and asat, gross and subtle material objects. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the very subtle state within the manifest world is known as the unmanifest, and the realm beyond the manifest world is called transcendental. Within the coverings surrounding the manifest, in the region of the time factor, is the phase of material existence experienced by the controlling deities. In this phase exist the two functions, cause, asat, and effect, sat. In the universe, which is a third tattva, or reality, apart from and containing both sat and asat, and which is a form of the Supreme Lord, it is impossible to produce any contradiction to the non-dual absolute truth. In other words, although ignorant materialistic scientists may zealously carry out research to find a material principle that can negate or render unnecessary the existence of God, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati clearly states that since the universe is an emanation from the Lord, and therefore spiritually identical with him, there cannot possibly exist anywhere within the universe a material law, principle, or phenomenon that in any way contradicts the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. In fact, the entire universe, along with the spiritual sky, exists as eternal testimony to the unlimited glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. With this understanding, the 9 Yogendras were traveling about the earth in transcendental bliss. What a purport. I'll take a drink and help you, just let you digest that for a second. Try to sink in. There's millions and billions of people out there, and they're talking about so many things, but what we just heard is more profound than all of them they hear it in their whole life. You notice that when you go out and preach. Text 23. The 9 Yogendras are liberated souls who travel freely to the planets of the demigods, the perfected mystics, the sadhyas, the heavenly musicians, the yakshas, the human beings, and the minor demigods, such as the kinnaras and the serpents. No mundane force can check their free movement, and exactly as they wish, they can travel as well to the worlds of the sages, the angels, the ghostly followers of Lord Shiva, the Yogendras, the Brahmanas, and the cows. There's a Goloka, there's a cow, there's a planet of cows here in the material world. The cow, the Serbi that came to bathe Krishna was one of those cows. Text 24. Once in Ajanaba, the former name of the earth, they came upon the sacrificial performance of the great soul Maharaja Nimi, which was being carried out under the direction of elevated sages. Text 25. My dear king, seeing those pure devotees of the Lord who rival the sun in brilliance, everyone present, the performer of the sacrifice, the brahmanas, and even the sacrificial fires stood in respect. That's how elevated these guys were. Text 26. King Videha, Nimi, understood that the 9 sages were exalted devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, overjoyed at their auspicious arrival, he offered them suitable sitting places and worshipped them in a proper way, just as one would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The word yatarhatha is significant here. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti, the word yatarhatha means yatochitam, or according to the proper etiquette. It is clearly mentioned here that the Navi-Yogendras are Narayana Parayana, exalted devotees of the Supreme Lord, Narayana, or Krishna. Therefore, the word yatarhatha indicates that the king worshipped the 9 sages according to the standard Vaishnava etiquette. The etiquette for worshipping exalted Vaishnavas is expressed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur with the words Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastrayi. An exalted Vaishnava, being totally surrendered to the will of the Supreme Lord, is taken to be a transparent medium for the Lord's will. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is stated that even by a moment's association with the pure devotees of the Lord, one can achieve all perfection in life. Therefore, as indicated by the word Prita, King Nimi was overjoyed by the auspicious arrival of the sages, and therefore he worshipped them just as one would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although impersonalist philosophers claim that every living entity is equal to God, they callously step over the heads of their so-called spiritual masters and freely speculate on the nature of the Absolute, giving their own whimsical opinions in defiance of the impersonal whims of their so-called gurus. In other words, although Mayavadi impersonalists claim that everyone is God, they ultimately show an offensive mentality toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead in rejecting the reality of its eternal form and pastimes. That's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point. I'll read that again. In other words, although Mayavadi impersonalists claim that everyone is God, they ultimately show an offensive mentality toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead in rejecting the reality of his eternal form and pastime. So in other words, everybody's God except for Krishna. And even then they won't worship everyone. They'll say they're all God, but they won't treat them properly. Thus they unwittingly belittle the eternal position of all living beings by denying their eternal personality and activities in the kingdom of God. The impersonalists, through their mental concoctions, try to minimize the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities who were part of Him, reducing them theoretically to a formless, nameless light by which their concoction they claim to be the absolute God. The Vaishnavas, however, welcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead and easily understand that the unlimited Supreme Personality has nothing to do with the conditioned, limited, mundane personalities we find in the material world. The impersonalists arrogantly assume that there could not be any transcendental or unlimited personality beyond our present experience. But the Vaishnavas intelligently understand that there are many wonderful things far beyond our limited experience. Therefore, they accept the words of Krishna, who states in the Bhagavad Gita 15:19, Yomam evam asamudo janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajatimam sarva bhavina bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. And he therefore engages himself in full devotional service. O son of Bharat. In this connection, Srila Prabhupada states, there are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna as the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. No one else knows the purpose of the Vedas. That sink in for a second. Therefore, exalted devotees such as the 9 Yogendras always accept the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as expressed here by the word Narayana Parayanan. King Nimi was a Vaishnava, and therefore he worshipped the great sages with the same respect with which he would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as shown by the word Yatarhata. Although impersonalists falsely claim that every living entity is equal to God, they cannot properly respect any living being because of their original offense at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarani. Okay. Their so-called worship, even of their own gurus, is ultimately self-serving and opportunistic. Yeah. When an impersonalist imagines that he has become God, he has no further need for his so-called guru. The Vaishnava, however, because he accepts the supremacy of the eternal personality of Godhead, is ready and willing to offer eternal respect to all living beings, especially to those most fortunate living beings who have achieved shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. A Vaishnava's worship of the Lord's representative is not self-serving or opportunistic, but is an expression of eternal love for the Lord and His representatives, as indicated here by the word pritaha. This is Gopi. This is written by Gopi, definitely. Therefore, it is clear from this verse that not only the 9 exalted sons of Rishabhadev, but also King Nimi himself, were all great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in defiance of the artificial and limited concept of impersonalism. I mean, just slicing the Mayavadi philosophy to shreds, every single purport. Sincere followers of Prabhupada, empowered representatives of Prabhupada. Text 27. Overwhelmed by transcendental joy, the king humbly bowed his head and then proceeded to question the 9 sages. These 9 great souls glowed with their own effulgence and thus appeared equal to the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami has pointed out that the word sarucha indicates that the Nava-Yogendras glowed from their own spiritual effulgence and not due to their ornaments or any other cause. The Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, is the original source of all light. His brilliantly glowing body is the source of the all-pervading Brahmajyoti, the immeasurable spiritual light that is the resting place of innumerable universes, Yasya Prabha, Prabhavato, Jagadandakoti. The individual soul, being part and parcel of the Lord, is also self-effulgent. In fact, everything in the kingdom of God is self-effulgent, as described in the Bhagavad Gita 15:6. Natad basyate suryo nishashanko napavakaha yad gatva nanivartante taddama paramamama. It has already been described in many ways that the Nava-Yogendras were pure devotees of the Lord. Being completely Krishna-conscious souls, they naturally radiated the intense effulgence of the soul, as indicated here by the word sarucha. Srila Sridhar Swami has also pointed out that the word Brahma Putropanman, meaning equal to the sons of Brahma, indicates that the Nava-Yogendras were on the same spiritual platform as the 4 exalted Kumara brothers. It has been described in the 4th canto that Maharaj Prithu received the 4 Kumaras with great love and reverence, and here King Nimi is similarly receiving the 9 Yogendras of Lord Rishabhadev. Receiving exalted Vaishnavas with love and reverence is standard spiritual etiquette for those who desire progress and happiness in life. What's not to like? Okay, one more. Text 28. King Videha said, I think that you must be direct associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is famous as the enemy of the demon Madhu. Indeed, the pure devotees of Lord Vishnu wander throughout the universe not for their personal selfish interest, but to purify all the conditioned souls. Purport. King Nimi here welcomes the great sages by glorifying their transcendental activities. It is well known that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7:13. Mam ebhyak paramam abhyayam. Mam ebhyak paramabhyayam. Similarly, his pure devotees are also on the transcendental platform. One may ask how such transcendental living beings as the associates of Lord Vishnu could be seen within the material world. Therefore it is stated here, Pavanaya Charantihi. The associates of Lord Vishnu travel throughout the universe to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A representative of the governor may be seen moving within the prison house, but that does not mean that the governor's representative has become a conditioned prisoner. It is understood that he is within the prison to negotiate the possible release of those prisoners who have rectified their criminal propensity. Similarly, the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, called Paribrajakacharyas, wander throughout the universe, inviting everyone to surrender to Lord Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead, for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. In the 6th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mercy of the associates of Lord Vishnu has been described in connection with the salvation of Ajamil. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has pointed out that the associates of Lord Vishnu are as merciful as the Lord himself. Even though the ignorant members of human society are not interested in approaching the servants of Lord Vishnu, the devotees of the Lord, without any false prestige, act to liberate the conditioned souls from their perpetual misfortune. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here, reading tonight, and move on to our open mic section of our program, nightly program. Who's going to start it off? Okay, Prana.
Well, I was just thinking on that very last point in this last purport we read about how the devotees of the Lord, without any false prestige, it's saying that the members of human society, the ignorant members of human society, are not interested in serving Krishna and approaching the servants of Krishna. But still the servants of Krishna go out and approach them to liberate them from their perpetual misfortune. Just a motivational thing to hear and contemplate when we do Sankirtan, because that's the purpose. And when we go out there, we should feel the burning desire to help these people on Krishna's behalf.
Can I back up what you just said even more precisely by this purport? This is chapter 3, verse 30, the last paragraph of the purport. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Prabhupada. He nails it every time, Prabhupada, doesn't he? He just nails it. One time I was on a walk, I've told the story before, you probably heard it. It must be, I don't know how many times on this video. Anyway, Hare Krishna, here we go again. I was on a morning walk to Prabhupada, December 2nd or 3rd, 1973. Yeah, Cheviot Hills Park. And so we were walking and no one was really saying anything. And I really was dying. I didn't go on that many walks, so I wanted to hear something from Prabhupada. So I said, Srila Prabhupada, and he stopped. And then I said, oh my God, I'm going to have to say something now. Oh my God. And then I said, and my voice was just, I could barely, Srila Prabhupada. The pure devotee is more merciful than Krishna. Is the pure devotee more merciful than Krishna? The first time I said it, he said, "What did he say?" And the second time, he still didn't get it. And then the person carrying the microphone, the recorder, repeated it, and as I repeated it, and then he got it. So Prabhupada looked like to me, and he went like this, and he went, "Oh yes." And I just, where did you go? I melted into the ground. Oh. It was like that. And then he started to speak about Arjuna and how Arjuna wanted to save them, but Krishna wanted to kill them. That was his first example. And he spoke about that for a little bit. Then he spoke about Durvasa Muni and Maharaja Ambarish. And it wasn't so long, but it was enough for me to last me the rest of my life. But then when we got back to the temple, in his class, he brought the point up and kind of made it the theme of his class. So I was sitting there I pleased Prabhupada. There's no doubt that question pleased him because it got him a chance to say all these things. So therefore, for a fact, if you go out and try to explain Krishna consciousness to anybody, anytime, you are guaranteed. Your success is guaranteed. Yo mama eva masamudo janati purushottamam. We just heard this verse. Sasarva vidbhazartimam sarva bhavani bharta. It's just a matter of time.
Because we've been doing Sankirtan and it's been really ecstatic. That piece of the purport you read in the 3rd chapter, how the devotee tries to engage them in acts of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Because on book distribution, we try to get them to buy the book.
Yeah.
But, Prabhupada said even if they touch the book, even if they appreciate it, appreciate the devotees, what to speak if we teach them the mantra, or they just say Hare Krishna, or take some prasadam.
But they appreciate what you're doing, like you said.
Yeah.
They should go away, thinking, I just met the nicest person I've ever met. That's the perfection of Sankirtan. Other than in picking a book. The next perfect thing.
So I was just thinking, though, it's like always encouraging, and it's always a successful thing when we go out there, and they should be motivating us. Because if we celebrate those successes, that wow, I'm out here, I'm engaging people in acts of Krishna consciousness, then automatically people will buy books. But if we think, I'm not doing anything, nobody's taking a book, then they don't get attracted. But if we actually have that mood of ecstatically engaging them in acts of Krishna consciousness.
And that's why it's important to hear the books and get ecstatic like we get every night here. It's the most important thing for becoming inspired to distribute the books, is to hear the books properly.
Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Patrick.
In text
20, Take us along. Right. Go ahead.
In text 27 purport, we were hearing how there's a question that it's kind of come into my mind before, but I hadn't really held on to it and asked. But it was about the individual soul also having effulgence. Could you explain what that effulgence is?
Consciousness.
So it's like so it's parcels of light, or also it's
consciousness, pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness. And that's what activates, the consciousness activates the material bodies.
Okay.
And the sum total of all those effulgences is the Brahmajyoti.
Okay.
There is some very, very subtle difference between the basic light and the souls that are resting in the light. That's very, very high stuff, and that's where my realization stays here in this room. I can't answer that question. Is there a difference between the Brahmajyoti and the souls? It's not. I don't have the capacity. You have to go to the spiritual world to find that out. There were things that when Prabhupada got that kind of question, he would just say, why don't you go and ask Krishna, or why don't you go there and find out? Because then we can't, there's not that we can just know everything while we're here in this material world. Certain things are beyond our, that's why, interestingly, even these great personalities from the top of the universe, they're talking about these same subject matters again and again because they're so difficult to actually understand while you're in the material world. The Bhagavatam is such a difficult scripture. It's like the sum total of all scriptures. It's like very, very difficult and very extensive and very poetic and very philosophical and deep, and yet the whole thing fits together. It's 18,000 verses. And you look at the whole thing and you say, how am I possibly going to read that? But then just come with us. Either in Kartik this year, it's going to be Purushottam Mas in Vrindavan, and we'll read 5 hours a day, and we'll read that much of it in 1 month. It's mystical. Just like you can see how hard, we just went through, of course we read a little bit faster. I purposely read very carefully and very slowly so that we can try to enter and penetrate, and keep the train of thought. But there when we're with Vaisheshika Prabhu, when it's 5 hours a day and we're trying to get through, 3 volumes in 28 days, it's like, it's the sprint, it's like the fast lane, But when you finish the whole thing in that length of time, what we did with this last Kartik, we did the whole Krishna book, the whole 8th canto, and the whole 9th canto. Seriously. Every single word, including purports, in 28 days. 5 hours a day. And toward the end we may squeeze it a little bit more just to get it done. And still we would stop periodically for discussions and reflections. It's amazing. And every once in a while, Vaisheshika Prabhu would he'd be keeping track, how many pages we have to read in order to get done with this volume in the right amount of time. Then he would hold up the book and he would say, after about, 3 minutes, he would say, this is what we read just now. Out of his. And then when we got to this far, he would say, and we've read this much. It's mystical how it happens. So the only hope for us, because I just heard Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu say that the holy name of the Lord and the Srimad-Bhagavatam, particularly, and the Gita, are the only sounds that have the power to penetrate through the ignorance that is there in the Kali Yuga. The reason it's special is because it's the only thing that has the power to cut through that ignorance. In other ages there's meditation, fire sacrifices and temple worship and all that. But in this age, it's only the holy name and the Bhagavatam, Gita. And of course Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is made up of all those verses all put together in the right order, in the perfect order. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Pranata Karuna has left a question.
Pranata Karuna, where are you? Hey, Haribol, we're waiting for you. You were supposed to be here yesterday. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to embarrass you, but I guess I won't because you're there over there. You're not in here. Anyway. We're waiting for your kirtan, Baba.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your service. My question is, how should we respond if someone is taking to bhakti, someone that they're cultivating, and they act jealous towards us?
You have to try your best to offer them proper respect. Just like this king, he just offered all respects. So this is a difficult subject because it also says that if someone's envious, and offensive in the way they act, then you shouldn't spend time there. Unless you have the power to defeat that skepticism and that envy, then you should let it go. Not try to do the impossible and keep trying to do the impossible with this one and that one. And then after a while you just go, you blow a gasket, There's only so much a person can take of that stuff, So therefore it says that the second class devotee, the preacher, this third class devotee can't preach because they don't have enough knowledge and their faith is not deep enough to deal with that kind of energy, that negative energy, But the second class devotee is fixed in the faith and has enough knowledge, but can't always answer the questions. The first class devotee can answer the questions from Shastra definitively and clearly, though they're not in danger of getting affected by those persons. So therefore the recommendation for the second class devotee, the preacher, is that he loves God, makes friendship with the devotees of God, is compassionate to the innocent, and avoids the envious. Because usually people who are like that, they're atheists at heart. And it's very, very all-pervasive in this time. It's impersonal. That's why Prabhupada speaks so much of it in it. The purports of the 11th, 12th cantos also speak so strongly about it, because that's the subject in the verses. One time somebody asked Prabhupada, you speak so much about the Mayavadis in your purports, but in the Western world we don't have any Mayavadis. You need last. And he says, the book is for you, because you're the Mayavadi. You don't even know it. You're so ignorant. You don't even know what you are. We're defining you very clearly, so you will know what to do. Because it's very all-pervasive. It is. It's reached everywhere. You just scratch a little deep. They'll look like they're worshipping the deity, and they're just merging with the deity. Oh yeah. Or they won't. In India, sometimes they won't open the doors of the deities for just a few minutes, seconds, because they think that will, pollute the deities. Or they'll stand in front of them and bang a gong as loud as they can. You can't even stay in the room. It's like bong, gong, bong, gong, isn't it? And they don't chant. They don't make anything sound nicely, beautiful. It's like they're trying to scare the deity away or something. Shoo the deity away. It's crazy. But these are all manifestations of the same thing, of impersonalism. Not the inability to treat, the soul as a person. Yes. Prana.
During Kartik, we were at a temple here, a Hindu temple, distributing books.
In Houston?
Yeah, in Houston. And we had a book table. And one gentleman who was one of the priests there, one of the pujaris, he came. And he grabbed the book Science of Self-Realization, and he started yelling at me about this term self-realization. This is impersonalism. This is wrong. And he started criticizing ISKCON and this and that. And I stood up and he had Sri Vaishnav Tilak, and I said, no, this is Vaishnavism. You know ISKCON, you know Srila Prabhupada. And I tried to explain to him. But he was quite belligerent actually.
Yeah.
And then he said what his name was, and his name was Parthasarthi. That was his name. And he said, do you know what that means? And I said, yes, Krishna, the chariot driver of Arjuna. And he said, no, that is the lesser meaning. It actually means, and he made up some weird concoction that it's the mind is the chariot, and this and some weird concocted impersonal idea, and said that's actually what it means. And I argued with him and said, no, the personal meaning is the higher thing, but he wouldn't hear it. And I thought it was very interesting because this is someone with Sri Vaishnav Tilak, follower of Ramanujacharya.
Oh yeah.
And what he was speaking was totally in defiance of that.
Therefore, Lord
Siddhanta.
Chaitanya, when he went to South India and he came to the Tattvavadis, who were supposed to be the very intense Madhva, followers, but they were not following. And Lord Chaitanya just sliced them to pieces, with philosophically. There was one Buddhist priest who was spouting all this influence. And then they tried to contaminate Lord Chaitanya. They brought this plate with this contaminated object, and they were going to. And what happened? This big bird came, and grabbed the plate, and it spread all over the thing, and it dropped the plate, and it went on the head of the head guy. And he just went bong, and then all of his followers came to Lord Chaitanya and said, "Please bring our leader back to life, please." It's like. And then he did, and then they all started to chant Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, he converted Prakashananda Saraswati. That was like it's a miracle. Not anybody can do that. Only Lord Chaitanya can do that. But still, yeah. One time I was on a train coming from, I think, Bangalore to Bombay or someplace, and I met this professor, teacher, and he was going at me, and I was chanting Gita verses after Gita verses after Gita verses, and he said, you're not supposed to know that, you got a white body, who are you anyway? I started to glorify Prabhupada, and I explained to him, and he followed me off of the train right to the temple in Bombay. I never joined or anything, but he was, they couldn't believe it. They were incredulous, that we would know, that a Westerner could know anything. And that's what we're dealing with, the prejudice and the impersonal philosophy and impersonalism. It's everywhere. And therefore, it's at the root of all this dissension and violence and hate. It's all based on impersonalism. Because, you think you're the body, you're an impersonalist. And then if anybody that's different than yours, you're envious, competitive. There was a story when I was a kid, I don't know if you know this, but there's a story called the Hatfields and the McCoys. And the Hatfields have got orange beards, and the McCoys have got maybe it's off vice versa. And the other ones have black beards. And so they're all, always fighting with one another, and Hatfields and the McCoys. It's getting close to 7:30. I gotta go, and I didn't get to bed early enough last night because I got a call that I didn't know I was gonna get, unexpected call. What's this? Sharing and sharing?
He took a picture of me in that conversation.
Oh, in that very conversation? Yeah. Let's see. Let me see.
It's great.
You were there.
I was just trying to be humble, actually. The other guy.
There you go. Good going, Prana. Good going. That's how you learn the philosophy. Shota Sarva. We have to be very careful because there's a tendency now to do what they call interfaith programs. And you couldn't get Prabhupada to go to any interfaith programs because what ends up happening, they all end up being the same. They see each other the same, and everybody's trying to make the other person feel better, and whatever the philosophy is just get merged into a kind of, in Hawaii one time, Yogi Bhajan came to try to get Prabhupada to come to this conference that they were having, this, conference of light or peace or something, and they wanted him there because of his stature, because they knew who he was. And that conversation, they tried to flatter Prabhupada into coming and this and that, and finally Prabhupada just lost interest. They couldn't get him to come. You have to come because we're the one, and we all want to learn from you. And it's like, Prabhupada, they're all coming for the same reason, just to show everybody else that they know the truth. And so we have to be careful. Not that we want to offend anybody, but at the same time, better not put yourself in a position where you're going to have to, especially with somebody else's program. You have to be careful. But having book distribution anywhere, anytime, in any program, any book table, you put it anywhere, that's the right thing to do. We don't want to look more favorable to people. We want to be so good, nice, that other people will want to get our association. That's Prabhupada's. He wasn't interested in making thousands and millions of devotees. He was interested in making one pure devotee. He meant a lot, pure devotees, but that was the philosophy. Uncompromising. Okay, I gotta go. Thank you very much. It's 7:25. All glories to the 9 Yogendras. All glories to Maharaja, Nimi. All glories to Srimad-Bhagavatam. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Welcome back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It's Friday. Probably know to be here, everybody, with Friday program. But anyway, we'll be here like we are every day at 6 o'clock, Central Time in the United States. Hare Krishna. Keep reading that Srimad Bhagavatam. Hari Bol. See you tomorrow.